Stormy weather. McCabe gets fired, and it's a Fed week. What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line, and looks to be some stormy weather ahead, I guess, as we saw a lot of news of Stormy Daniels over the weekend and her past trysts with the president, and we'll see what that all brings. And of course, Andrew McCabe got fired, and 2 days before his pension was due. another little interesting tryst here, little things going on in the world, but. You know, I think one of the problems is this whole narrative of trying to create issues for the sitting president right now is more of an act on the left to continue to keep something else on the front page of the paper. We'll see. I'm not going to get into too much of that, but I thought it was interesting, and of course, we're going through the March Madness and the biggest upset in the history of the NCAA tournament, a 16 beating a 1 with the Retrievers beating Virginia on Friday night, and been some pretty interesting games. But so far, the tournament's holding fairly true to form, but very exciting. And if you like it, it's a great deal. And of course, it's a big moneymaker for Vegas. It's actually bigger than the Super Bowl. But as we look back at the markets last week, and we had a fairly quiet week, nothing too exciting. Markets were a little bit lower, which was no real big surprise, as we said, because again, we do believe that the tops of the markets are in, and again, we repeat that just because we think the tops are in doesn't mean we're going straight down. It just means I don't think we're making new highs. Now, we had, after last week's huge up move, we had a minor down move this week. But I think that, you can look for some more action, especially coming into the Fed this week. I think that, it was interesting. Oil was relatively flat last week, but yet, once again on Friday, it spiked higher. Now, it's interesting that the last two Fridays, and I think really what you're really seeing here is probably some tie-ins to the Aramco deal out of Saudi Arabia, that people don't want to go home short over the weekend in case there's some sort of announcement. Now, I don't see what difference does it make. I see oil as having virtually no value here and extremely overpriced. I think that we'll hit our next target of 58 fairly soon here, and possibly lower. Again, I'm looking for oil to go back into the 40s before the year is out. So we'll see how that all plays out. Gold continues to be under some heavy struggle here. It is stuck in a big range, 1,300 to 1,365. However, it is working its way to the bottom end here, and we'll see if it breaks out. I think if you break through 1,300, 1,340 becomes in play. 1,240 becomes in play if you get through 1,300. Now again, we'll see how it trades out. There's a lot going on. I don't think that the dollar will have that much of an effect here, because we know what's going on with the dollar and the suppression by central banks and the way that they're trying to keep control of the dollar, which will tie into the Fed, which we'll get in a little bit. But the dollar did have a little bit better week last week and did rally a little bit higher. But again, it still has to get through that 91 level to show me that it's going to break out. Now, I do believe it's going to break out, and I do believe that it's going to get to 95, and I do believe it's going to get back to par. Now, the timing on that is, we'll see. Obviously, it's hard to say what timing and when we're going to get there. But I do think that we're going to get back to par at some time, in the future. How near that's hard to say. At first, it's got to get through 91 for me to get any excitement at all. We had another rough week in the grain markets. Soybeans and wheat and corn were under some pretty good pressure and closed near their lows. Soybeans are a little bit flat, maybe to a little bit higher, but of course they took their little beat down last week. But I think at the end of the day, you want to look for the pullbacks here and look to be a buyer somewhere at these levels. And of course, the agriculture, the cattle markets, and the meats, the hogs, they continue to get thumped. It's like we better have some barbecues if you want to see those prices go higher. excuse me, but fat cattle or live cattle was the strongest of a very weak bunch. We do have a cattle on feed report this week, which I think, as I've written and I've said, that I will personally go in long into that report, especially if we continue to stay lower here. This, to me, all the information, all the news is being priced in. So where are we going to go? Are we going to go to zero now? I guess, again, this goes back to, are we going to stop eating? You know, there's always these interesting moves in markets, and of course, when you get commercials involved and you've got some manipulation, people trying to make some dough. So we'll see how that trades out. Again, I'd look to be, my general overview, my general outlook of the overall markets, I'd look for a spot to sell the equities at resistance. I would look to be flat gold right now. I'd be a seller of crude oil. I'd be a buyer of grains a little bit lower than here. I'd continue to be able to be a buyer of the meats. And of course, the Bitcoin had another rough weekend. I guess there was another story out of Mt. Gox and a couple of others. And I think one of the big things here is I think we're coming very close to a bottom or a low in these cryptocurrencies. You know, look, you can say all you want about the cryptocurrency space, but at the end of the day, okay, they're being recognized as a commodity by the CFTC. They're starting to get some traction, which means that they're becoming more accepted, all right? And there's a new product, I guess, came out last week through the commodity side, which said, you know, it's going to be a new fund, which is going to have to be run by a commodity trading advisor in the cryptocurrency world. So, again, I think these are all things that do indicate that they're real. And again, I start to look to be a buyer. Again, you don't want to take all your money. You're looking to put yourself somewhere in a position to have that as part of one of your investments in your investment portfolio. I think that, but the general views is things just don't look all that good here. I think that there's a lot of weakness in the markets. I think that, you know, you're in an extremely long bull market. I believe you've got too many people trying to pump this up and push this up to make you think that everything is okay. We've got the same words of this time is different, and it doesn't matter. And of course, then you tie back in Rex Tillerson either resigned or got fired, and you're going to be replaced by Pompeo. You have Larry Kudlow coming in for Gary Cohn. And I think this is the interesting thing about the trade wars, all right? So already the street has kind of ignored now the possible trade wars. And again, I don't believe it's that big of a deal. Now, this is my opinion. This has nothing to do with anything else, but I don't think that a trade war is that big of a deal. I think that, again, I think we need to flex our muscles. We need to take back control of the world and show who the boss is, all right, because we are the number one supporter. I mean, and this is where I think you're looking at some issues that should not be a problem. And the reason I believe there's so much argument and so much trouble over this is because we've allowed so many things to happen because we've financed it from underneath, that all these big companies that make this money because of all these deals, and of course all these politicians that are in play that are grabbing parts of this money because they get these deals done, is just another crock of crap, in my opinion. And again, trade war, no trade war, look, we need to start to rebuild in America. I think this is where we keep forgetting and we keep missing the point, is that the 313,000 jobs that were supposedly created, and I'm not saying they weren't created, but 313,000 jobs, if you listen to Peter Navarro, he says over the years we've lost over 55 million jobs. And I would say that somewhere in between there is the right number. You know, we don't have those high-paying jobs here. And I go back to the same thing I've mentioned many, many times. We've got a big problem in people between, let's say, 40, 45, and 60, 65. There's a ton of us, me being one of them, that are uneducated, that we're good at line work, manufacturing, machine tool working, and those products. And now that those jobs have all been eliminated and sent offshore, we have these unemployed people that had good benefits, good pay, and help support the economy. Well, somebody like me, I'm not going back to school. Where am I going to go for a job? And I think that becomes the bigger story. Is that's why I don't think that all of this is such a big deal. Tariffs, trade wars. Look, the NAFTA deal is a lousy deal. we've got quotas sending out. We have not. They have no quotas sending in. Let's just work the deal out. Let's make the deal where where it's fair for both sides. Isn't that supposed to be what a deal is about, where both sides are benefit from that deal, not where one side finances it and takes care of everything? So I think that becomes one of the stories to talk about. Again, we can look at it all we want, but Kudlow is a non-tariff, a non-trade war kind of guy. So I'm sure that President Trump just didn't hire him off the street and say, okay, well, here's the job. I'm sure they discussed their plans, and I'm saying that President Trump is just flexing his muscles, and everybody wants to go back to the Bush trade wars or tariffs on steel, for example, that what it did and how much it actually cost because it was wrong. But this is not just on one product. I think this is a global deal saying that you want to bring goods to this country, you're going to have to pay for it. And I don't have a problem with that. I think that makes much more sense over time. And I believe that we've got to put ourselves in a better position to take back control, flex our muscles, and become the boss. You know, don't you think it's enough? Are you not tired of giving up a lot of your capital that you pay for taxes and you pay for everything else out to somebody else that isn't helping you, that does not benefit you? And not only does it not benefit you, but it is a detriment to you. You know, I think that is something that we need to take control of here. And I think it's time to take a hardline stance. If it creates a little bit of problem in the near term, is that a real huge deal? And I think the answer is no. Look, we've got to take care of Americans. We've got to take care of our country before we can worry about taking care of everybody else. And I don't see the big issue, and I don't see why the street got all bent out of shape anyways with the possibility of this. If the economy is as strong as it is, if everything is supposed to be as it is, then why is it such an ordeal? I don't get it, I don't see it, and I don't understand it, and I'm quite frankly quite tired of seeing about it. But again, that's what we'll hear, and we'll hear more from the Fed this week. And when we come back from the break, we'll talk a little about the Fed and some of the other stories. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, and I am Todd Bubba Horwitz, and I want to remind you to check out our highschoolinvesting.com. You can check out the website, see what we're doing, but we're obviously trying to help educate the youth of America so we don't have these problems the next time through. I mean, I won't be here, but hopefully my kids and their grandchildren and my grandchildren will be taken care of by not such idiots. So I want you to see and go to highschoolinvesting.com. And if you want to help us out, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Bubba Trading. And if you make a small donation, we'll be more than happy to give you one free week of our advisory service and futures, and you can check it out and see what we're doing. In the meantime, don't forget to get the Bubba Show every day at 4 to 5 Eastern Time at libertytalk.fm. That's the Bubba Show. And we're going to head back to Bubba's Bottom Line right now. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. And, you know, I think one of the big issues out there is, you know, we've got too many millennials and even Americans are starting to get too much involved towards communism and socialism. And I think this is part of the problem that we've created over the years with our whole policy. I think this relates back even to the trade wars, where you're willing to bail out everybody and give everything versus having everything let the markets take care of themselves. And I think this is something that we've somehow lacked over the years, is the true free market, which will be part of my commentary when we get back. So we've got these issues happening, and of course here comes the Fed, and we have the Fed meeting this week. And you know, what are they going to do? They've already come out through their own channels, that they're still dovish. Okay, dovish means that they're not going to do anything with rates. They've continued to try to keep this free money train working, this cheap money, this free money, this whole garbage setup of what we have, which destroys everything. And of course, we know that in history, right, the Fed has been around for 105 years. We know that in the history, every decision they have ever made at exiting a program has failed and has created the major sell-off. The Fed is responsible for the last 4 or 5 bubbles in the markets because of their ridiculous monetary policy, because of their ridiculous willingness to let the free markets trade. So you can bet that they're not going to do anything that is going to upset the stock market. Now, again, I think that's already pretty priced in. That may create actually the bigger opportunity for a sale after we hear what they have to say. But they're not going to do anything because they've already proved that they're gutless, clueless, and don't want to change. All right, they love this theory of trying to borrow their way out of debt, which has been something they've tried forever. And of course, they've done such a great job. They've only created $5 trillion more of debt. So what are they going to do? They're going to do nothing. What we really want to see is how are the markets going to react. We know interest rates have been rising. Okay, the 10-year, I'm going to say in the next few weeks, is going to get over 3%. The 30-year continues to rally, and of course the yield curve continues to flatten. So what has the Fed done? They have done absolutely nothing. Okay, and what are they good for? Nothing. All right. Again, I would love to see a full-blown audit of the government and the Federal Reserve, because I think that would make more sense. All right, I think that this is one of the problems that we tend to see and we're tend to dealing with. And now you've got, housing permits slowing down. All right, the slowest they've been in years. I mean, they were already expecting a pessimistic and a bad number, and it's worse than they thought. All right, so you continue to hear, we hear the pundits and the advisors tell us that we are in this Goldilocks economy, and everything is just perfect. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. And I go, okay, whatever you want to say, it's obvious that we are not in that great of a position. Okay, how is it obvious? Because look at the overall spending. Look at the sales that continue to fall. All right, people do not have as much money as they had before. Other than the very upper echelon, we are in major wage stagflation and will continue to be so as long as we continue these ridiculous policies and as long as we let everybody kind of run roughshod over the United States of America. That's just a common fact. Look what's going on in the state of California. Look what's going on in Illinois. I mean, I think Illinois just became the highest tax state that there is. God, I wish I could move. I don't like it here anyways, let alone I'm stuck, but that's a story for another day. All right, but we continue to ignore the major pension crises that are coming up. Now, that we are not making enough money to provide for our retirees. Now, part of that's because of the way the stupid systems were set up. All right? Part of it's the mishandling of the pension funds. I happen to know in the state of Illinois, I don't believe that the state has contributed since 1999 into the teacher's pension. Now, that people work their whole lives to set these things up so that they can get to a point. They're not trying to get rich. They're trying to calculate out, okay, if I'm making $50,000 a year now, and when I retire, I'm going to still be making $50,000 a year because of my pension, Social Security, whatever, I'm going to be fine. But these pensions are going to collapse. There is no doubt as to the fact that they are underfunded. There's no doubt that they are overpaid. I mean, you look at Central States pension. Right now, for every dollar they take in, they're paying out $4. Okay, now how long does that last? Do you remember Margaret Thatcher's words? The nice thing about socialism, everything's great, you run out of other people's money. Well, if you're only putting in 1 and taking out 4, and our age is expanding, where are we going? All right, so these pension funds are going to, and that includes Social Security, which is another total Ponzi scheme because it has been mismanaged and not treated properly. All right, this is where we have the problems, and this is why is the retirement age still 65? All right, why has that not been changed in 100 years? I mean, again, the whole design of the program was that a lot of people would pass away by the time it got there, so that money would be able to stay in the pool. Well, considering that the average age now is, I don't know what it is, let's say it's 75. All right, why is retirement not 75? That's 10 more years of working and 10 more years of putting in and allowing the system to grow. But again, who am I? I can't tell you, what we're going here. I mean, it just makes no sense to what we got going and the whole picture. I think it's just, again, it's the total ignorance and the unwillingness of our politicians and our governments to actually step up and do the right thing. I think that becomes the bigger story. So we're worried about trade wars and we're worried about everything else, but what about what's going on right here? What about our own people right here that have worked hard and put money away and are going to have to work till they're a million? Okay, you know, they're never going to get out because look what's going to happen. And if you don't think this is going to happen, you better take a look again. So, you know, I'm taking my Social Security next year, all right? And I'll donate the money, okay? I'm not worried about it for myself, but I don't want them spending it. I don't want them throwing it in the garbage can. I mean, look at what we got to deal with. I mean, just look at the whole situation with Stormy Daniels and with Andrew McCabe and with Jim Comey and all these other people. I don't want my money going for this nonsense. I mean, is this the biggest joke ever? I mean, have we not spent $1 gazillion in the whole Russia probe? Do we not have a system that is just totally melting down? I mean, can you imagine if we had this much media when John F. Kennedy was president? What might have happened? Some of the stories, because we know some of the rumors that have come out then, and it's not just him. And I'm not picking on one. And quite frankly, I don't really care. All right, what do I care about? I didn't care about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. It didn't bother me. What bothered me is that he lied about it. And you know what? The American people are so very forgiving. All he had to do is say, "I did it. I'm sorry I did it," and that would have been the end of it. But that's not his style. All right, he's a cover-up guy, and he continued to cover up. That was the biggest ordeal there. It's not whether or not he did it or not. What do you think? They're all saints? Let's get real, okay? The difference today is that the media is just so fast, and the communications are so fast. Now, does that create some action in the markets? You know, was it right to fire Andrew McCabe with 2 days to go to his pension? Okay, you know, there's just a lot of stuff going on, but a lot of stuff that really shouldn't be even part of the overall picture. This is where we lose the crossover of what's really happening and what really needs to be focused on, which goes back to we should be working on our pensions. We should be working on cutting back at costs. We should be working on making more money so that everybody can live and that the money is not going totally to waste. We should be working on cutting back on our politicians and their term limits, because certainly they're only stealing the money anyways. I mean, you know, that's my opinion, by the way, but they're only stealing the money anyways. I mean, what's the point? What do they actually do that makes any sense where they actually take care of them? They take care of the country. Well, if they were really taking care of the country, they would not have allowed Social Security to stay at 65 when it should be 85 or 80 right now. Okay, they would not allow all these things to happen. They wouldn't be overspending. We wouldn't have a $20 trillion deficit. Right? That's that alone should tell you what is wrong with many of the things in this country. And again, America is the greatest country in the world. I'm not taking it away. I would not want to go anywhere else. But these are the problems that need to be dealt with. Okay, not whether or not this is happening or that's happening. These are the problems that need to be dealt with, and it starts right in the government. All right, that's the whole problem, and that was the whole issue of Donald Trump going to Washington, is he wanted to change a lot of these things, and of course he can't, because not even his own party wants him to change a lot of these things, because again, they're all used to getting all that free cash that nobody cares about. Right? This is the falling of everything, in my opinion, and this is where it has to stop. All right? In the meantime, we're going to stop here for a break. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horwitz. We're going to come back after the break, but in the meantime, make sure you look at our high school investing program. And again, we're trying to help out and get rid of a lot of this trash because it's just brutal. But in the meantime, if you want to help us out, you can go to patreon.com/Bubba Trading. And again, we give you a free weekly advisory service if you do. And, you know, we'll do a special webinar for you. Again, we're just trying to continue to help move this program on and help these kids, basically helping ourselves and helping future generations to have more financial literacy. I think that's really what it comes down to. And don't forget to catch the Bubba Show every day at 4 to 5 Eastern Time at libertytalk.fm. In the meantime, let's get back to the show for my commentary. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz. And, you know, I'll tell you something. I look at what we have here, and you know, we're all concerned and consumed with, for example, what's going on with the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies and the pensions and all the other things. And I go, what happened to real free markets? what happened to asset classes actually pricing themselves? And I think that is something that we have totally ignored over the years of the free money. And this isn't just back to 08, this goes back longer than that. All right. But when you started to create all these bubbles, and we can go back to Greenspan in 1980, okay, and he was the first big bubble creator, and then you go, obviously went to Bernanke, and now Yellen, and now Powell. But when did we decide that Americans no longer wanted to have true and free and fair markets where the asset classes price themselves, not versus what the Federal Reserve decides? That is where we have destructed and eliminated the true free market society. The only free market that I know of right now is, well, there's a couple, but the one that financially wise would be the cryptocurrencies. They have nobody dictating, nobody telling them what price they have to be at. They have nobody able to play with their money and to devalue the currency as they do with the US dollar all the time, and it's happening right now. The suppression of the dollar, which again does not make the market truly a free market, because what it does do is it allows foreign borrowers to borrow money at cheaper rates, even though interest rates are rising. But in the meantime, here we have it, okay? We have no free markets. Housing is based purely on what the interest rate is. Interest rates go up, housing prices go down. We just saw that. We talked about it earlier about the drop in new home sales. When it comes down to it, you have a lot of problems because you do not let the markets trade freely. When you're trying to manipulate all these markets, you only create an artificial growth. You keep something, all the numbers you get from manipulation is artificial. That goes back to, we talked about this last week, is buybacks. You know, buybacks are again at record numbers. Now, the last time they were at these record numbers, well, it was 2007. So all we are doing is continuing to delay the inevitable by destroying the free market system. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that is really what separates us from everybody, is the ability that we had a free market system, which has been slowly taken away because of course, the Federal Reserve. This is, again, something that you need to think about as we look at things, as to why we don't have that same ability, which is why everybody's so concerned about the cryptocurrencies, because they are decentralized, because there is no one person controlling them, because they truly trade on the free market. If you want to buy them, you can go buy them. You don't have to buy them, but if you want to, you can go buy them, and you go to an exchange and you get a price from somebody and you buy it. That is called the exchange of wealth. That is called price discovery. That is called the free market. And as long as we continue to let these systems run the way that they run, we are not going to have a true free market. And that will create, the non-true free market creates more of the bubbles and creates more wealth destruction than anything else, because when they pop, here's what happens. All right? If you have been, let's say, making lots of money now, let's say in the markets, okay, but they're not true free, but you understand that the free money keeps it going, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get a pop, and you now lose that money that you made in the market because it just fell out of bed. But you know, it's funny, all the money you took out, you're responsible for taxes. So not only do you lose the money, you got to pay the tax on the money that you made last year. So instead of letting the markets trade freely, they continue to try to manipulate it. And again, there's a lot of reasons for that. And it'd be very interesting to see what they're going to do this week, because it's going to be, I'm sure, more of the same BS. But in the meantime, we need to have a true free market system, or go back to a true free market system. But that is the reason that the cryptocurrencies are thriving, even though they've been selling off lately, but they continue to grow, and they continue to be recognized because they are a true free market. So those assets price themselves, and I think that's what we're missing. And to me, if the Fed would just get the hell out of the way and let the markets decide what the right price on everything was, we'd be a heck of a lot happier going forward. And of course, this is March Madness, and this has been a great weekend, and I always appreciate you coming and listening to me here on Bubba's Bottom Line. And let's have some fun and enjoy the rest of March Madness. Everybody have a great week. Remember, the Fed is on Wednesday. So Wednesday at 2 o'clock Eastern, expect some market gyration. We think the top is in. We think the seller rallies. But in the meantime, have a great week, everybody. We'll see you at Bubba's Daily Update each day. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the tournament. And we'll see you later. Bubba's Bottom Line. Have a great one, everybody. Thanks.